Okay, hi, I think we're live. Yes, we are live. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. If you've tuned in live, if you're watching us on replay, that's also great. Today, very pleased to be introducing the first of our vendor interview series. You may have seen that we've done a review series of the ITSM solutions that we partner with here at Xcession. Today, we're going to be talking to For Me, and I'll introduce Cor in a little bit more detail in just a second. But very quickly, for those of you who've not joined before, I'm Daniel Gilby, account manager here at Xcession. Xcession, just very briefly, we're an ITSM consulting and implementation organization. We specialize in all things ITSM. I'm joined by my colleague Sunil. Sunil, if you'd like to give a quick intro, that'd be great.
Thank you, Dan, and hello to everyone. Again, so I'm Sunil Dougal. I'm the CRO at Xcession. My background for more than the last 10 years has been working with customers to really help get the most from their investment in their service management technologies.
Thank you, Sunil. And then just to set the scene for what we want to talk about today, as mentioned, we've reviewed the ITSM solutions, given our views and our opinions on those. We wanted to delve a little bit deeper, really hear some sort of behind the curtain kind of viewpoints from the vendors themselves. And again, today we're talking with For Me, we're talking with Cor Winkler Prins. Cor is the not only the product lead for Me, but also one of the co-founders. Cor, welcome. Great to have you with us today. If you could just give us a quick introduction to yourself, that'd be wonderful.
Thank you, Dan. Yes. So I was one of the original founders of For Me. That was about 13 years ago. And I'm currently head of product. So my main contribution to For Me is basically listening to customers and translating what I'm hearing in the field into new product features and capabilities that will help them be more successful with their service management solution.
Fantastic. So we have a few questions for you today, Cor. It's not going to be a grilling, but it's really we just want to understand perhaps a little bit more about the philosophy behind For Me. We've spoken about it as being a very broad, enterprise-ready and capable tool set. Be interesting to hear perhaps about what's coming in the future, and indeed, a little bit, as I say, behind the curtain. Any insights that you can share with the market space would be great. So I think you had a couple of kickoff questions. Let's get to it.
Thank you very much. So, it's really great having you with us, Cor, because this, as Dan said, is all around trying to understand, what customer challenges For Me is trying to address, and what are the kind of key outcomes that customers will benefit from. So having, A founder and B a head of product is superb. So I guess let's start off with something that's quite broad and open, really, as a question. You said you founded the business about 13 years ago. At that time, when you looked at the challenges that customers had and the existing vendors in the marketplace, where was the mismatch? What was the perhaps the customer challenge that made you think, we can do this a better way?
Yeah, so it was 2010. I was living in the Silicon Valley, working in Sunnyvale at the time. And what became apparent is that there was a new player that was really starting to dominate the market, because they introduced something new to our industry, which was that they would host the service management solution on behalf of their customers. So that was ServiceNow. We have them to thank for it. And that was a major milestone for our industry, because it just made the whole process of actually getting the software in place, getting it running, and maintaining the software a little easier, because the customers wouldn't need to buy hardware, an operating system, a database, all the licensing related to it. That was now all the problem of the software vendor, which was great. But I realized at the time, and this was sort of 8 years after ServiceNow got started. So Fred Luddy did an excellent job. He basically moved the industry to the next level. and we're really grateful for that. But I also realized that when he made that decision, it was a different moment in time. When he started to build ServiceNow, that was at a time when all enterprises were really scared of submitting their data to the cloud. And rightfully so. Yeah, there were so many security issues at the time. But sort of 8 years later, we were in a different environment, and we could see that ultimately those concerns, which were still valid at the time, 8 years later, but we were going to find solutions for them. Yeah. In the end, it became clear that software vendors would be better at securing their software than customers would be. If we would just send them a couple of DVDs with the software and they would have to install it and then protect it from the outside world or even from their own employees, in essence. So it was pretty clear where the industry was going. And at the same time, LinkedIn became popular. Yeah, we could really see LinkedIn spread. And it was really nice because then if you and we met at a conference, let's say I got your business card and I could say, hey, that's Dan, rather than entering all your contact details in my personal address book or something, I would just look you up on LinkedIn. I would ask to connect with you. And if we had been connected after you had accepted my invitation, we could collaborate, or at least communicate, right? And what LinkedIn did essentially is, at the foundation, their architecture was very different from what normal software would do for enterprises, in that they put everybody essentially on the same production environment. Yeah. And rather than the way all of our competitors were doing it at the time with service management solutions, every customer would get its own database, very segregated. They would be running on a different virtual machine, each customer. But we said, what would happen if we would apply some of these same principles to service management? So we ended up with a massive production environment where essentially all our customers are on it. And it's a little bit more complex in reality, but essentially it's just one database. And what that allows you to do is to have different customers set up their own service management environment to basically customize it for their needs. But we would allow them to connect with each other, to invite each other, to link their workflows together, essentially. Yeah, and the reason why we did that is I used to be a consultant, a service management consultant, helping large multinationals implement sort of a standard service management approach within their organizations, always supported by a single tool. But the problem that these particularly large enterprises have is that they have a lot of external providers that they rely on. For example, they would outsource the network to, let's say, Orange or BT or AT&T. Yeah, those were pretty much the only choices at the time. And then when there was an issue with the network, and there were easily 30, 50 issues reported a day about the network from different IT departments around the world, they would need to pass those tickets to those network provider. And to do that, they would essentially go to the self-service portal of the network provider, re-enter all the information, and then wait for something to be fixed, check regularly on that self-service portal to see what the status is. But it's kind of silly, right? Ideally, you would get an end user to report it. The service desk picks it up, says, okay, this is network. So it goes to the shared service organization for IT, for our enterprise organization. And they have outsourced it to whomever, let's say BT, okay? Then BT would pick it up, they would have all the information, they could give updates, the end users could follow the progress of the ticket, would be way simpler, right? But then in addition, these large enterprises, they don't just have a shared IT organization, they have multiple IT departments around the world. And where they have their big data center, they may have a couple of hundred specialists. At the headquarters, they may have quite a few IT specialists as well, and the architects and everybody's there. And then they may have a whole outsourced help desk, let's say in Manila or something. The people behind the phones. So they're different constituents, but there may also be a small sales and marketing office, let's say in Argentina, and they may have 2 salespeople there. Yeah, and these 2 salespeople, they don't need a very complex service management solution. They, if you would give them the choice, they would configure it very simply. Yeah, whereas at the headquarters and the data center or the shared services organization, they would go really advanced in terms of configuration management, change management, risk management, even all those kind of things. Time tracking would be really, would be taken seriously to get the right management information about how to allocate resources. That is not important for that 2-man show, that 2-man IT department in Argentina. So you would then try to sort of standardize a way of working together or a tool configuration across a large conglomerate almost, or a multinational enterprise. And that never worked really well. These organizations that were small, these organizations that were really advanced, these organizations that were really immature, they would all have problems with the standard configuration of the solution, and they would all resist, basically. So it was really hard for the CIO to spread service management across the entire organization so that the CIO could have almost real-time reporting analytics around how well the different parts of his empire or her empire was doing. So we figured, okay, if we have this architecture where we have one massive production environment, we can give each party their own environment. They can configure it however they want. The only rule is that you cannot break the ability to work together. And if we have that, and we know which of these environments belong to the same enterprise, let's say, then we can generate a reporting that senior management needs at the top. That was the philosophy behind for me, and it gives a ton of flexibility. And now with ESM, Enterprise Service Management, you see how this, similar practices, maybe not the same, but similar practices are being rolled out not just across the different IT departments of these large organizations, but also to HR facilities, legal, etc. And that seems to work really well for me, because we have this very unique architecture.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really interesting, the point around ESM at the end there. It almost sounds like your starting point, you may not have thought exactly this at the time, but your starting point was, how do we build a service management capability for the enterprise, rather than how do we take an IT service management capability and extend it? Which is, so, I mean, it's a fascinating story, Cor, and you sort of went through this journey 10 years ago, slightly more than 10 years ago. How much has changed in the last 13 years? Because as we understand it, a lot of the principles of For Me remain the same. The concept of trusted domains across the enterprise, the data model is consistent across, you can't, it's sacrosanct, I think was the word we used when we described it. So, a lot of those principles remain the same. How much has the customer perspective moved, do you think?
Well, three milestones have occurred since then. So ServiceNow helped us get to at least a hosted environment. Yeah, for me, then took it to a proper cloud solution where different organizations could even work together. And then the next milestone was SIAM, as a sort of the theory behind how large enterprises worked smoothly with all of its providers to make sure that all these service providers that they rely on, that they play nicely with each other, and that they can monitor the quality of service that they're obtaining from these providers. And also, in the same vein, Gartner has popularized this idea behind dynamic sourcing. Yeah, basically being able to bring on a provider very quickly if a certain new technology is needed to gain a competitive advantage for the enterprise organization. Yeah, but then also to offboard such a provider really quickly when maybe a newer technology replaces the old one. So it should be a constantly evolving ecosystem of providers around this enterprise. And that is where SIAM as a management approach has been really instrumental in helping large organizations structure this. Then the second milestone that happened is that some organizations were already going a little bit beyond IT, but now it is obvious it's enterprise service management. And essentially what it is turning into is service management is becoming the workflow management platform for the entire enterprise. And not just a few supporting functions of the enterprise like HR and IT, but even finance is still supporting, but sales, even in the factories, we see our customers use for me, for example, when they have a production street, it's producing a certain model of a machine and they want to switch that street over to a different model. Yeah, then they follow a for me workflow to make sure that everything is checked, everything is adjusted properly, it's signed off, so that from a compliance point of view, everything is covered, and everybody knows what to do and in which order, and they don't forget anything. So that is where we see service management headed. Yeah, and that was kind of the second major milestone. The third happened this year, basically, early this year, thanks to ChatGPT. We suddenly realized that, hang on, AI is now really useful. Yeah, it's not a bunch of marketing and a bunch of clever algorithms that are essentially just some rules that people thought of. And this new level of AI technology, it is completely different, and it's completely reshaping the whole ITSM landscape. But essentially, it's reshaping our world as humans. But within the context of IT service management, it has fantastic application possibilities. Of course, we just rolled out the first 2 large language model AI features. And we have, for the next few months, 6 more in our pipeline that we're working on currently. And we believe that this is a point in time where some of the service management providers are going to be able to keep up, whereas others, they basically are going to be inconsequential. They will fall by the wayside. They will not be able to make the transition into the new era. And when there are customers now that are on a solution that the vendor may say they're still providing support for, but they're not actively maintaining, that software anymore, then these organizations will feel kind of left behind when they compare themselves with organizations that are on a service management solution that is making AI readily available to them, so they can capitalize on this and be considerably more efficient, but also in terms of quality, provide better quality in terms of the support that they provide to the rest of the enterprise.
So Cor, are you seeing as AI is going to become a fundamental part of the service management provision, given the advances that have been made in the AI space? What seems like very recently.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous, Dan, because it's just this year, really, that we've passed a certain milestone, thanks to ChatGPT. They introduced us to practical and actually valuable results from an AI, and suddenly the application is obvious, and it kind of started with the idea, okay, now finally the virtual agent can be much better in terms of communicating with users, but it goes way beyond it. And if we look at the acceleration of the quality of the results that you get from AIs nowadays, there are quite a few different competing models that are better at certain things, whereas others are not so good at other things. But there's so much activity going on in the AI space, and so easily applicable and so valuable in terms of the richness of the information that is provided in a very succinct way, so it's easy to digest for humans and apply in their daily work, to allow support specialists that may have just started in their work a month ago to immediately bring them up to at least a senior specialist level, because the AI is sort of the co-pilot of the specialist. There's so much value there, and on a daily basis we're coming up with new ideas on how to make use of this technology in ways that will allow our customers to become not only more efficient, but also raise the bar in terms of the quality of service that they provide.
Cor, when you were talking about the milestones, you've described a CXO dream in many ways, haven't you? Technology provision that you just consume the outcomes of. You're not responsible for the maintenance, the running, the administration. A visibility across your enterprise from end to end of work and workflows, and then using an AI capability to improve productivity, agility, customer experience across those enterprise processes. So it's a very appealing, if you're sat at a CEO or a COO level, CIO level, it's a very appealing vision. I guess one of the questions that we see when we talk to customers, though, is, so what is the practical application of, say, something like, ChatGPT or AI, for the people that are working? You mentioned the support teams, but someone in change management or in problem management or config management or whatever, it may be. So maybe, it would be good to give us just a feel for what some of those use cases at that level might be.
Yes. Because to Dan's point earlier as well, what we envision is that within the next 18 months already, AI is so pervasive that we don't even need to talk about it anymore. Obviously, it is an integral part of any IT service management solution. It has to be. So in terms of our positioning from a marketing point of view, but also from a licensing point of view, and we don't see it as something that is an add-on to the product. It is, immersed in it. It's everywhere. So I'll give you a few examples of areas or use cases where AI can be really useful today. So the first two features that are now in production available for all our customers are one is summarisation of requests. And this may not sound terribly interesting for the very simple request. Can you give me access to this or that? And the specialist says done. And you don't need to summarize that. But there are a lot of requests that come from our customers, for example. They have an idea on how to configure for me, for example. And then they pass that ticket to their implementation partner, and they discuss the topic a bit. And then they say, let us ask for me. So the implementation partner passes that ticket to us. They don't need to obviously re-enter all that information. They just pass it along because we're all connected with each other. So we get the ticket, and there are about 20 notes in the request where the discussion took place, right? So we now see that this is the request. It was submitted by this person, had an idea about this and that. They kicked it back and forth a little bit. Their conclusion was that it would be great to do this, and now they've passed this for me because they wanted to validate if this was a good idea or if they had if there will be any unforeseen consequences, let's say. So that is the summary. So I don't have to read that whole text anymore. We've switched it on only last week, and yesterday I realized that, goodness, I must have saved myself already at least 10 minutes today. And I've only been working on a few tickets. I must admit yesterday.
And if you take that use case and put it into a complex multi-provider SIAM environment, then actually suddenly you're seeing a whole opportunity for saving time and increasing productivity.
Exactly. And there are two specific cases where it becomes really clear. So let's say you have a request that came in from one of your customers, and internally there was a lot of discussion. You receive it, you only need to read the summary. That saves you time. The other really good use case is where the request has been completed, but for me has indicated that the problem manager for the affected service should decide whether this is a good candidate for opening a new problem for it, to do root cause analysis after the fact. The customer has maybe gotten a workaround that the customer is happy with, but now maybe internally we need to figure out how to prevent this from happening again, for example, right? But then the problem manager will they will do that either weekly or monthly. They go through the requests that have already been completed, but which have been marked for me as potentially being of interest to a problem manager, to the problem manager of the affected service. So the problem manager opens the ticket and just reads through the summary. Doesn't need to understand the entire.
Because what happens when you were doing that process manually, you would have to go through and you'd be summarizing in your mind. You'd be like, okay, that bit's important. That bit's important. You're saving all of that effort, right? And it's just
exactly. And it's really surprising how capable these large language models are in terms of providing an excellent and succinct summary. Now, the next feature that we released already was, let's say the request was completed, a workaround was provided, the customer is satisfied with it, But the specialist things like, we're going to get more questions about this. Let me create a knowledge article so that next time when a customer runs into this, they can follow the steps that I provided to the customer themselves. So we already had that feature where you could go to the node where the solution was provided. You could click on it and say, create knowledge article. And it, for me, already provided some help. But now what for me does, it says, okay, yeah, the subject of the request was kind of nice, but the AI suggests changing the subject to this. And the description of the knowledge article is this. This knowledge article is used when, let's say, a customer runs into this issue. Yeah, and then the instructions section of the knowledge article has a nicely written and step-by-step approach to fixing the issue. And then you can just accept these suggestions, or you can write your own, or you can copy-paste certain parts of it. But then you hit save and it's done. And it's nicely written. So that is a second feature that is really helpful. Then what we're going to do next, imagine organizations, many organizations still allow their users to contact the service desk through email. Yeah, so an end user may send an email to the service desk, and it has a from person, so you know who the email came from. There's a subject and a body, right? That email. And but for me then converts that into a ticket for that person with that subject and a note that contains the text that was in the body, and any pictures and attachments are there as well. But then what for me does, or at least that's what we're working on now, is it is thinking, hey, that person is covered by the following services with a service level agreement, and the users specifically using these service instances of these specific services, and these service instances, they are supported by these teams. And in the body and the subject, I read information that I understand to mean that the person has an issue, so it's an incident, so the category is selected, with, let's say, email, but that user is in Europe, and therefore it's the European email environment that the user has an issue with, and that environment is supported by this team in Europe. Therefore, I'm going to assign that ticket to that team. And then within that team, we have these people. We already have that functionality to figure out who is currently available, who has a lot of work, who will soon be on vacation, all that stuff. And if customers switch that on as well, then it goes straight to the most likely member of the team to be able to resolve that request. Great. That is a very simple use case as well in terms of classification. And what is nice about that, of course, is that you shave easily 20 minutes off of a request by getting straight to the person who can work on it.
So the automated triage, you're removing a whole layer potentially of human interaction and engagement, aren't you, to move that to the right team? And also, in theory, then reducing the number of hops that a ticket might take, because it's chasing around a whole bunch of different resolver groups trying to find the right home. So,
of course, we need to eliminate that first contact by email. That'll be probably one of the things that a lot of people will be talking about as well. But having said that, people will and continue to email in, because
for many organizations it's currently not possible to eliminate that source. But very quickly, because the next obvious step is, of course, to make sure that when such a ticket ends up in the queue of one of the team members, and that person opens that ticket, that person sees that, it's about this. it was previously reported by somebody else, but this is the solution that was provided at that time, and maybe you can apply the same solution. Or this knowledge article describes how to resolve it, and these are the instructions. Or this is a standard request. You should apply this request template, which will spark a whole workflow. Or maybe, hang on, this is a duplicate. This person already registered the same request 2 days ago. So maybe you want to group them together or something like that. But making sure that whoever receives the ticket has some extra information to quickly help him or her find a solution for the user. And then the next step is obviously to shift that to the left and make sure that the virtual agent can propose such solutions as well. But for now, at least for the next few months, still it's going really fast. We're thinking in months now rather than years. We will see how well this works, having AI support humans before we're unleashing AI to potentially replace some of the work that humans are currently still doing.
That makes
sense. Freeing them up for more high value activities.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's plenty of work to do. It's very important for organizations to free up their people and give them more interesting work to focus on.
Definitely. Cool. I'm just sorry, Sunil. I just want to say this. We have a few minutes left. We're going to kind of run to 40 minutes. We could. I mean, it's fantastic having you here with us, Cor. I'm sure there's more than 40 minutes worth of other things that we could be discussing, but I want to kind of keep it concise. And of course, just to the audience and anybody watching this on replay, if you'd like more information about ForMe, please reach out to Sunil and myself. We'd be happy to try and facilitate a conversation, perhaps even with Cor or other members of the team at ForMe. Sunil, why don't we finish up with perhaps one or maybe even two final kind of questions to Cor? What's your thoughts on that?
Exactly where I was going. So we've got a fantastic conversation, Cor, has done.
Absolutely amazing, brilliant.
But what I'd really like to leave people with is, because we want to try and make our review series as practical as possible for people out there who are taking the time to watch it. So I'm not going to ask you to describe your ideal customer, because I don't want somebody listening to think, well, I'm not that, so I won't talk to Cor or to the ForMe or Xcession team about ForMe. But just give us your top 3 reasons why an organization out there should put ForMe on the short list when considering their service management tooling moving forward.
Yes, very, very good. Well, first of all, what we see many of our customers doing is almost organically growing their service management footprint from the IT department. That's still typically where organizations start, and it makes sense because the IT department can help create a beautifully designed self-service portal, for example, make sure that single sign-on works, those kind of things. But those are the basics. But once that is in place, we see that ForMe kind of naturally spreads in the organization to other departments. And that is kind of what we like to offer to our customers. So most of them, they're currently still stuck on ITSM solutions that in theory you could also use for, let's say, HR. But in practice, they run into issues. Either they allow HR on the same environment, and HR can see what IT is doing, and IT can see the requests that are typically filled with sensitive information that were submitted to the HR department. So that doesn't work, right? And you can do a lot to manually adjust the access rights that people have, but it's a lot of manual work and mistakes are always made. And what for me does to prevent that is to have these separate environments and allow them to work together, right? But by default, there's zero trust between environments, and they can gradually open up more as needed to allow them to see it. The other way organizations are doing it, they say, okay, we have an ITSM solution, and HR can use the same ITSM solution, but on a separate database. But then they can't work together. Yeah, and that is kind of where we would like to focus in terms of ideal customer profiles. Our organizations that are kind of ready for the next generation, where the same principles of service management are applied in different support domains within the enterprise. And we would really like organizations to go then beyond that, because the implementation is really simple. For me, once IT is up and running, to get HR up and running, in 2 days you can comfortably do it. Because everything is already configured. It's easy. You specify the services that HR provides. You allow customers to submit requests to HR for those services. And then over time, you build nice workflows for that and good knowledge articles. As you see that the need is there for a certain knowledge article, that's when you create it, and not before, basically. So it's a very simple way and very effective way of gently rolling it out to the entire organization. But what you have then, and these are more the advanced thinkers around this in terms of enterprise architecture, essentially. What you end up with is a platform where all the workflows are very well documented. You can track how often certain tasks are performed. Everything is audited for compliance. So your compliance people will be really happy. They can, in fact, do all the periodic work that they need to do to stay compliant. They can automatically kick off workflows when that is needed and prove to the auditors that, yes, this workflow was kicked off then. Everybody did their little bit. So we are staying compliant. We have all our controls in place, and we follow our own policies. But we need these people who want to go way beyond what IT service management is now. And the reason why it's important for them to do that is that in the end, each enterprise needs a workflow management system, essentially. What for me does exceptionally well, in addition to providing the workflow management capabilities, is to provide the workflow automation functionality as well. For me, Workflow Automator is an additional service that customers can subscribe to, and they can use that to automate the tasks that they see are completed on a regular basis in For Me, and then see, okay, how much time did it take, and ask themselves, is this a good candidate for automation? And then use the For Me Workflow Automator to in a very structured manner, take the tasks that take the most time from humans, and automate those, and then automate the next task, and then the next type of task, and so that over time, more and more goes automatically, again freeing up people's time to focus on more interesting work.
Yeah. So I'm going to summarize that. Sorry, Dan.
No, go ahead.
So if I get this right, Cor, you can score me out of 10 here. So organizations that are looking to genuinely leverage the extensibility of a service management, case management solution across the enterprise, okay, and who are looking for efficiencies and productivity gains as a result of that, through automation as an example, or as we've previously talked around, through effective use of AI. So that would be your target customer, really.
Yeah, the ones that see this as a journey, yeah, that you embark on together with your implementation partner, like Xcession, yeah, and to take it step by step. Don't try to do everything in a single project, but just start and implement for me. Yeah, that's the easy part, and then the fun starts, because then you can look at, yeah, well, what are the best opportunities to invest our time in, and that removes so much risk from these projects. Yeah, if you continue to almost naturally grow your what is essentially a workflow management system, you don't run all those risks that you typically have with such initiatives. So those are the journeys we would like to embark on with our partners and with our customers, and to see them get more and more value out of for me, because initially they always look at for me like, yeah, that's easy. We can implement that, replace our old system, but that's just the start.
Fantastic.
It's a journey. Cor, thank you very much again. Wonderful to have you join us today. And again, to the audience, if there's more information you'd like regarding For Me, please reach out to Sun or myself. And thanks for tuning in. I'm going to throw up this slide now, everybody. And that's it. That's all, folks. Join us for the next session when we'll be talking to one of our other vendor partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Cor. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.